everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet my Anne's pink ribbon chemo beanie. Now of course you can use any colors that you want to for any awareness ribbons that you would like. This particular hat was made for my mother, and this is the one that she wore. And it's a nice soft hat and easy to put together. What makes it special is the cross stitches on these 3 rows that represent the ribbon for the awareness cause that you want to make the hat for. And of course I made this one for my mother when she was going through chemo and for breast cancer, and so the ribbons are in pink. This hat is designed for the ladies. If you need to adjust it to make it bigger, you can always use a bigger crochet hook. Go up a size or 2. If they're going to be wearing this with a wig, you may want to do that. But if they're just going to be wearing it on their head, because you know you lose your hair very quickly when you're doing chemo, and your head can become a little bit sensitive. And this yarn, I'm going to talk about the yarn in just a minute, but it comes out very comfortable, very stretchy, and very easy to wear, as well as washable. Now you can find this free crochet pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. Let's talk about what yarns work best when making a chemo hat. Whether it's for a lady or a man, you need to be careful that the yarns that you choose are very soft. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using this light gray and light pink called Soft Secret. This is by Yarn Bee that you get at Hobby Lobby. Some other good choices are Simply Soft, which this hat here is made in Simply Soft, which was my original hat that I made. Another good choice is Red Heart with Love or Red Heart Soft. This one is made with Red Heart Love for this charcoal color and Red Heart Soft for this rose color. And those are some good choices. If you want to use a cotton, a really soft cotton to use is I Love This Cotton at Hobby Lobby. It's very soft. The main thing that you need to remember is it needs to be soft and it needs to be a medium number 4 yarn. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook. You'll need your needle to weave in your ends, and if you're going to add a flower, you're going to need a little button and of course a pair of scissors. So as I stated, I'm going to be using these 2 colors for my hat. I'm going to be using this gray, which is called Mist, and this pink, which is called Soft Pink, by Soft Secret Yarn Bee from Hobby Lobby. And you're going to need about 2 ounces of each color, or a total of 4 ounces. We'll be starting with the gray, because we're starting at the crown of the hat. We're going to begin with a slip knot, and we're going to chain 5. We're going to join this into a circle, snug that down, and make that stay stitch. There we go. Now we're going to put our hook through, pull up a loop, and chain 3. This chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to stitch 11 more double crochets, so we have 12 double crochets. And we're going to stitch also over our tail of yarn. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. There's our second double crochet. There's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Let's make sure I only stitched 12 double crochets. Here's our chain 3 that counts as our first. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, we're going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch. So we'll put our hook through, pull up a loop. Whoops, I didn't get in there, did I? We'll try that again. Go in, pull up a loop, pull that loop through the loop that's on our hook, and we'll chain 3. Now, before we do row 2, we're going to turn this over and gently pull on this string. And that's going to close up the top of our hat. We can go ahead and take our needle and thread it onto that tail. Make sure that hole's closed nice and tight. And then we'll just go ahead and weave that in. And that'll eliminate us having to come back and weaving that in again. It'll be all taken care of. So we go one way, then the other, until we run out of yarn, and then we'll clip it off. So now row 1 is complete. 12 double crochets, join to our first chain 3 that counted as our first double crochet, and chain 3. Now for row 2, we need to stitch 2 double crochets in each of the 12 double crochets around. Our chain 3 counts as our first, so we'll yarn over, we'll put a stitch right in that same stitch as our chain 3. Then we'll place 2 double crochets in each of those double crochets around. And so since we started with 12 double crochets, row 2 will have 24 double crochets. Two double crochets in each of the 12 double crochets around, and we'll join back to our chain 3. I've stitched those 24 double crochets. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now for row 3, we're going to be doing what I call 1 and 2. 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 2 double crochets in the next. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, so we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 double crochet in the next, and 2 double crochets in the next. And I know that I say 1 and 2. It's not a technical term. It's just a way to help me remember what I'm supposed to be doing on this row. All right, so we're stitching 1 double crochet in the next and 2 double crochets in the next all the way around for row 3, and then we'll join back to our chain 3 that counted as our first double crochet. So just to repeat, 1 double crochet in the next double crochet and 2 double crochets in the next, all the way around, and join back to our chain 3. I finished row 3 stitching 1 and 2, and now for row 4 we're going to do 2 and 2. So our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, then we'll double crochet in the next stitch because our chain 3 counts as our first, and then we stitched 1, and then in the next stitch we're going to stitch 2. 1 and 2. So we're doing 2 and 2. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and 2 double crochets in the next. 1 and 2. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and 2 double crochets in the next 1 and 2. And this is our repeat for row 4. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches and 2 double crochets in the next, working all the way around. And again, we'll join to our chain 3 that counted as our first double crochet. One double crochet in the next 2 and 2 double crochets in the next. Repeat all the way around and join back to our chain 3. I've stitched my 2 and 2, working all the way around. I joined to the top of my chain 3 and chained 3. Now for row 5, we're going to do 3 and 2. It's similar. We're just going to have 3 individual stitches and then 2 together in the same stitch. So our chain 3 again counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2. And that gives us 3 individual double crochets, 1 in each of the 3 stitches. Then in the next stitch, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. Now we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 3 double crochets. And then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And that's our repeat for row 5. 1 double crochet in the next 3 stitches and 2 double crochets in the next, working all the way around. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And we'll repeat this all the way around, stitching 1 double crochet in the next 3 and 2 double crochets in the next, repeating all the way around, and then joining to our chain 3. I've completed row 5. I joined to the top of my chain 3 and chained 3. And now we're going to do row 6, and this is our last increase row. And row 6 is similar. The only difference is we're going to have 4 individual double crochets and then stitch the 2 in the same stitch. So again, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 3. And that'll give us our 4 double crochets, 1 in each of the next stitch, because our chain 3 counted as our first, and then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So the repeat for row 6 is 1 double crochet in the next 4 double crochets, and 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 double crochet in the next 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 2 in the next. So I guess we're doing 4 and 2. And we'll repeat this, working all the way around for row 6, and join back to our chain 3. 1 double crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then 2 double crochets in the next, working all the way around, and join back to our chain 3. So now we've completed the first 6 rows, and at the 6th row you should have 72 double crochets. We're not going to increase anymore, and for row 7 we're going to just stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. Our chain 3 still counts as our first double crochet, so we'll just stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets, working all the way around. So 1 double crochet in each stitch, working all the way around, and we'll join back to our chain 3. So now we've completed row 7, and on row 8 we're going to add our first row of ribbons or cross stitches. Alright, so we're going to leave our color 1 still attached, and we're going to bring in our second color, which I'm using this light pink or soft pink. Alright, now we're going to chain 4, we're going to yarn over, and we're going to cross back to the double crochet before that chain 3 and stitch a double crochet. When you're first doing these, they're going to feel just a little bit clumsy. Alright, so I'm going to move my hook over so you can see. Here's our chain 4 back here and our crossover or our cross stitch. Alright, let's get our strings out of the way. We're going to yarn over. We're going to skip the next double crochet and double crochet in the next stitch. We're going to yarn over and cross back and double crochet in that stitch we just skipped. There's our second crossover or pink ribbon. And that's the way this row will be worked. Yarn over, skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next, and then double crochet back in that stitch we just skipped. Skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next stitch. Cross back, and you'll notice I'm going from behind to make that cross double crochet. And now you can see that there's a few there, how that looks, and they do slightly resemble pink ribbons or whatever ribbons that you're making this hat out of. Skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, and then cross back and double crochet in the stitch we skipped. Once you get going, you'll see that this is really quite simple. Sometimes just starting the beginning of the row can be a little bit clumsy, but once we get going, it's relatively simple. We're still stitching double crochets. We're just putting them in different places for a different effect. So we'll continue stitching our cross stitches all the way around, and then I'll show you how to join back over here. It's not as complicated as you think. I've completed all my cross stitches working all the way around. I'm back to where I started. Here's my last cross stitch. And we're going to join to the top of the chain 3 where we started with that first chain 4. So we'll go in the third chain and stitch a slip stitch. We're not going to chain 3 because we're going to be changing back to our color 1, which is my gray. I'm going to bring that in, make sure everything is snug down, and chain 3. Now for row 9, we're going to leave our pink attached or our color 2 attached, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the stitches around. So we'll go to this double crochet that we stitched, then we'll stitch in the next one, and it can be a little bit confusing on this row. So what you want to do is you want to follow those stitches on the top and make sure you put a set or a stitch in each of those loops or set of loops, because that represents your stitch. When you're doing this row, you can accidentally add or subtract a stitch, and we need to keep it at the 72 double crochet stitches for our cross stitches to work out. One double crochet in each of the stitches around. And see how that's looking? One double crochet in each of the stitches, working all the way around, and then we'll join back to our chain 3. So I completed that row of just a solid row of double crochets, stitching 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around, because remember, our cross stitches are double crochets, we're just putting them in different places. Alright, so I joined to the top of the chain 3. I'm going to leave my gray still attached, which is my color 1, and bring back in my color 2. And then we're going to repeat what we did for row 8, which is our cross stitch row. Chain 4, cross back and double crochet in the stitch before the chain, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, and then cross back and double crochet in that stitch that we skipped, and repeat this all the way around. So what we're going to be doing, let me finish this stitch real quick, is we're going to be repeating row 8 and row 9 2 more times, so that we have 3 rows of cross stitch and 3 rows of double crochet after. So we'll be repeating rows 8 and 9 2 more times, so that we have 3 rows of cross stitch followed by a row each of our double crochet. So it looks like this. Cross stitch, double crochet, cross stitch, double crochet, cross stitch, double crochet. So repeat row 8 and 9 2 more times. Now I've completed those 2 repeats of the ribbon rows and a row of double crochet in between. So now I have 3 rows of ribbons with the 3 rows of double crochet. And now for the next 2 rows, we're just going to repeat row 9. We're going to stitch 2 more rows of double crochet in the color number 1. Now I joined to my chain 3 and I chained 3. I'm going to go ahead and leave my pink attached because the last row that we do is a single crochet row and it's just a trim in the pink. I do want to show you inside. This is where we've carried our yarn. I think this is much neater than cutting our yarn each time and having to weave those ends in. We will have to weave this end in, and then when we get to the end of the next 2 rows, of course, we'll have to weave those in, but we won't have to weave all these in here. We just carried them across. They're not too tight. It'll still stretch with the hat and make it a lot neater on the front and the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch 2 more rows of 1 double crochet in each double crochet around, and I'm still using my color 1. And if you want to use your other colors, you can, because remember, you can do this in any colors that you want and as many colors as you want. I think it would look beautiful in rainbow colors with rainbow ribbons even. Every awareness cause has a different color ribbon, and you can make this hat for any of those causes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch 2 rows, stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet around, join to the chain 3, and repeat. So I'm stitching 2 more rows of double crochet. I've completed those 2 rows of double crochet. I have joined to the top of that chain 3, and I cut my yarn because we're finished with the color 1. We're going to join back in our pink yarn for our trim, and this last row is just 1 single crochet in each double crochet around. So we go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets around. And if you don't want to switch back to your ribbon color, you don't have to. I just like to do it that way because I think it ties in nicely. One single crochet in each double crochet around. We'll join back to our first single crochet and tie off. We'll have to weave our ends in, and then I'll show you how to make that really pretty but simple flower. You can see I've completed that row of single crochet. I join back to my first single crochet, cut my yarn. I'm going to go in that next stitch from behind and pull that loop in so it looks a little bit neater, and then we'll tie off. Now I do have a few ends to weave in, and I'll do that with my needle. And as soon as my hat's all tidied up, I'll show you that cute flower. We'll put our hook in, pull up a loop, and chain 2. We're going to place 9 half double crochets in this loop. Our chain 2 counted as our first. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We want 10 half double crochets, and our chain 2 counted as our first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to join to that first chain 2 with a slip stitch, and then we're just going to chain 1 for now. We're going to turn this over, gently pull on that string, go ahead and take our needle and weave that in. So there's the center of our flower. We're going to chain 2 more. We're going to go in this next single crochet and stitch 3 triples. So we're going to wrap our yarn twice. We'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, yarn over, and go through the third 2. And we're going to do this 2 more times. We're going to chain 2 and slip stitch right in that same stitch. Now we're going to go to the next stitch and slip stitch, chain 2, and stitch 3 triples. 1, 2, 3, and chain 2. We'll slip stitch in that same stitch, then we'll slip stitch in the next stitch and repeat. And we'll do this 8 more times until we have 10 petals. Chain 2, then 3 triples, chain 2, slip stitch in the same stitch, then slip stitch in the next, and repeat until you have 10 petals. So I've stitched my 10 petals, and I tied off after my last slip stitch, and I left myself about 10 or 12 inches so I can sew this onto my hat. Before I do that, I'm going to add my button to the center of my flower. So I'll just come up through the back a couple of times. Now I want this to stay, but I'm not worried about it being used like to button through a buttonhole. So I'm just going to make sure it's on securely in the center where I want it. There we go. And I'll just go ahead and tie a knot because this is going to be sewn against the hat. Give it a couple of good knots. And now I'm going to attach it to my hat. So I'm going to thread that on. And the way I attach the hat, I need to decide which direction I want my button. I like to kind of center it about right there on that second row of ribbons. I'm going to go underneath and come up. There we go. And see these right here? That's where I'm going to sew around. So I'm going to go down. Whoops. My needle came unthreaded. There we go. And then I'll come back and go to the next one. I don't want my petals to lay flat. I just want the hat to lay, or I'm sorry, the center of the flower to lay flat. I want the petals to kind of flop up a little just to give it a little bit of a 3D look. So I'm going around the edges of the center of that flower. And then I'll go to the inside here and just weave that in nice and securely, going through stitches. Now this is a very slick yarn, and so I'll go through some of the fibers. And on this one, it's okay to go through some of the colors that aren't the same, because that flower is going to hide that in the front. I don't recommend using any glue on this one because it's going to be up against a head that might be a little bit tender. And I don't know if that glue will make a little knob or bump that might be uncomfortable. All right, so there's our flower. The ruffle of the petals can stick up. So here are the two other beanies that we made. And here's the one that we made today. And it can be made with or without the flower, of course, and for lots of different ribbon awareness causes.